Well, this has been a long time coming, actually. Why has it taken so long? I've been busy. I've been doing other things, including cricket around the world, which has been a real pleasure and a real privilege. But yesterday, or just recently, Barbados celebrated independence, and I found a video I made a decade ago on independence. And I was quite changed. Older, wiser now, perhaps. But what I noticed about the video was that how 10 years can pass quickly. The days are long, but trust me, my friends, the decades are short. And I thought to myself, this is now the era of my service. I'm evolving. I'm thinking so much. How can I best be of service to people? And I think this is how. I just want to talk. I want to reflect. I want us to think and discuss things which are important to our civilization. So what's the biggest change in the last 10 years? When I looked at the video, I noticed how unencumbered I was. I didn't have on any makeup. My hair was dragged back. I was just talking freely. And I thought, wow, 10 years of insecurities and self-consciousness has emerged since then in me. We're supposed to get better as we get older and more evolved. But in fact, the whole world is more distressed, is more anxious. And I just would like to have a chat about some of the reasons why perhaps that is. We can't look past screens and social media. It's a digital world, no doubt. It's a digital world and it's making us so efficient and we're doing lots of good things and it's giving people access to places and things that they've never seen before. But it's also giving people access to other people's lives. I think that's where we start. This idea that you can see how other people are living. Inherent in that is comparison. Is jealousy, is, hang on a second, how come they get to do this and I must do this? And I feel it's one of the things leading to our downfall. What do they say? Comparison is the thief of joy. But my point is, if big people like me, big senior adults struggle in light of that, how the children coping? Well, I've got some stats for you. Hashtag facts and figures. I used to have an Alex Jordan morning show on the radio, right? And we were real popular. Me and Saul transformed. I like to think we transformed radio in Barbados. And there was a period where we were riding high. We were doing real good and thing. And we got this text. I will tell you how long ago it was on the text box. And it was like, yeah, I'm a fan of your show, but too much opinion, guys. We need some facts and figures. And since then, hashtag facts and figures has become a running joke. But I got some. Many people doing studies now, many countries changing their laws around children and social media with good reason. But let's start with the youngest children. And the Centre for Social Justice, using data from Ofcom in the UK, children say that children who use screens for 60 minutes a day, that's an hour, are 10 times more likely to develop musculoskeletal disorders than those who do not. 10 times more likely, especially those that lie down and use them. And in fact, in that same data, a teacher was talking about her experience in her class. She has little toddlers. And she said that 2 children in her class cannot physically sit on the carpet because they don't have enough core strength. My friends, I want to tell you something. One of my other areas of expertise is the body. I teach Artemis movement practice and we learn a lot about the anatomy. And one of the ways that you can have a look to see what's the best possible way to hold your body and to hold your alignment and your posture is to look at children. It's the age-old definition because children naturally have a very nice way to sit up. And here now we're having a generation who is starting their lives without enough core strength to sit on the ground. I don't know where we go from there, but it is concerning. All right, a few more facts and figures, right? 1/3 of children between 3 and 5, these are stats from the UK, but I think we can gain some insight from them anyway. So 1/3 of children between 3 and 5 are using at least one app or website. And we have confirmed science that there are links, of course, from that to anxiety speech impediments, sleep disruptions, bad behavior, emotional underdevelopment, and of course, rising anxiety and increased identity-based distress. So here's this tool that we were given. We thought, oh, how amazing. We can express ourselves. We can make things on here. We can look and get ideas. And we are connected to the world, especially people who live on islands. Oh, this worldwide intraweb. It's outstanding. But as a person who lived before it, I am grasping to hold on to a belief that it's actually improving us. I think one of the things we can talk about is addiction. Because addiction is an underlying issue, right? If you're addicted to crack or cigarettes or marijuana or alcohol or sugar, there's an underlying reason for your addiction. It's not just addiction for addiction's sake. It's some kind of struggle. Well, there's also a massive, of course, addiction to screens. I am an addict. I know that for sure. I recently went to Scotland, right, for a retreat, Artemis Movement retreat. And we're in this beautiful, castle, essentially, where we were staying. Real sweet, 10 bedrooms and, gorgeous reading rooms and fires and land to go and thing. So I said, okay, I'll lock away my phone for the week. So I want you guys to lock away my phone. So they said, all right, we'll put a bowl in the living room. Y'all put your phones in there, right? I want y'all to know my phone spent about an hour and a half in there. And I could not do it. I couldn't get it due. And I was so amazed and ashamed. And if I can't get it due, how are we expecting children or teenagers to do it? It's an addiction. And guess what? The world becoming more and more stressful is also a lovely distraction. Our minds like the doom scrolling, right? But how do you feel after the doom scrolling? Tell me the truth. How you feel after the doom scrolling? It's got to be depressed, right? It's got to be under the weather. Forget the physical body. We're talking about the emotional body now. Feel like, nothing impresses you anymore. The internet and social media, right, is the home of wealth and beauty porn. That's my contention. Wealth porn, first of all, everybody is a billionaire like Rihanna or wants to be. So expectations of what your life is like, expectations of what you should look like on a day-to-day or what things should look like are sky high. And what happens when expectations don't meet reality? Isn't that the definition of depression? I feel that's the definition of saying. It's the definition of saying for sure, right? Because your imagination is, you know what it is? It's the opposite of gratitude. It's the opposite of gratitude, right? If we're talking about the fact that gratitude is where we need to be and this idea of mindfulness in terms of feeling good and grounded and connected and happy and content, even if you're ambitious, content is something else. The opposite of that is never being satisfied, never feeling satisfied. Samuel Badri and I have a joke, big up badders, that, we've been very lucky over the years with cricket to be put up in really beautiful hotels, right? All over the world. And the hotels have been stunning. Some places amazing, like you can't believe it. So we were on a tour once, right? In a nice hotel, all inclusive and things sweet. And I was sitting with Samuel and someone came over and someone rang us who was late for the tour and said, I'm coming. How's the hotel? Had them on speakerphone. And before Badri could answer, I was like, hotel is nice, but your room's pretty bog standard. And Badri looked at me with his mouth open and I had to actually catch myself. The room's bog standard. The room's real nice, The room's real nice. But because I'd had all of this experience and exposure to all this extraordinary stuff, it became bog standard. And that was me coming out of my gratitude. Rooms are beautiful. Mate, what am I thinking? And I think this happens to us all over and over again in every part of our life. Right? What your house is supposed to look like. I saw this wonderful piece Matthew sent me, this great piece of this girl on TikTok. How good. I'm so critical of Gen Z and Gen Alpha, but I got to big you up because this girl was so insightful and could see very clearly what was going on. She would not have been born before the internet, right? She's born into the internet. So amazing that she could have the insight to see it. And she was basically saying, you know what's changed? Like our interaction with each other has changed so much because I don't need to ask you what you did on your weekend. You know, you used to come into work and be like, hey, how you spending the week? I don't know what you did on the weekend. And I know what you wore. We're so desensitized, right? Because it's so much. We're not designed to take in all that information. She mentioned the point that you don't obviously interact with your colleagues or your friends in the same way, using language, connecting, being human, right? Developing empathy. That's for another discussion. She mentioned, her friend had got a new house. But she wasn't that inspired to go and see the friend because she's in a new house already. I done checked that. I done peeped that guy. Right? So I just feel like we've all become these kind of desensitized, unimpressed people. And I think if it's my biggest criticism of Gen Z, big up my nephews and niece and the whole crew, and Gen Alpha, is that they seem like a couple of generations to me who always seemed unimpressed. Like they'd be like, impress me. Right? Go to a party and be like, yeah, party was a night, because they're waiting for somebody to impress them. Their eyes are so used to such bright and shiny and sparkly things. And their standards are so high. Brother, I want truffle on my fries. What are you on about? Right? Everybody's standard now is truffle fries. That's such a silly example maybe, but it isn't. It's kind of like that in every aspect of your life, right? Obviously clothes. Oh, how much time have we got? On this podcast? Clothes, consumerism and capitalism have eaten us up inside out. So we're talking about screens and addiction to social media. But we can't talk about that without also talking about the fact, did I say fuck? But the fact that capitalism is rampant. Big capitalism threat. Donald Trump became president. My father died June 4th, 2016. Thank heavens he never saw Trump in power. Trump came to power at the end of 2016. The world changed drastically. I mean, don't get me wrong. America's obviously always been violently capitalist in that way, in the true sense of the word, and very consumerist. I like to think, in my mind, I feel like that happened in the later part of my life. But I look back in my early days and you look at the TV and things that were going on. There was an 80s boom in Reagan's time. The TV shows were like Dallas and Dynasty. Those guys were living high on the hog, champagne and lobster, baby. So it wasn't like it wasn't happening in my time. But it's even more so now, the proliferation of having things, money to buy things, the pressure to buy. You wonder why I've not been a successful influencer. You think, you had a radio show and you had a little clout in terms of all these things and people listen to you when you talk. I don't have anything to sell but hope and inspiration. I ain't really trying to sell you nothing, bruh. Like, what more do you need? Your house is so full of things, and that's what's depressing you, because we can't get any satisfaction out of things, people. We cannot. Unless it's a book. Now, that's another episode. A book can give you satisfaction, right? Of course, it's another distraction, but the concentration and the self-analysis and using your own imagination, even if you're listening to a book, I think there's great value in that. But you see, the makeup things every minute, and I was at another cricket story. I can see where this is going. It's a lot of cricket stories. We were at a hotel in Trinidad, beautiful place, Cara Suites in the south of Trinidad. Recommend it to anyone who is staying down that side. And we were by the pool, right? Chilling, beautiful day, great view into the Gulf of Paria. And my friend Gavin Scavell comes down and he's putting his beach towel on the thing, right? He goes, AJ, I have a great video of it. Insert here if we can. He's like, I've got these new things. Isn't it annoying when you go to sit on your towel and the towel falls off the chair? And he brings out these 2 pineapple clips. Now I've bought these. So these 2 pineapple clips to clip my towel on the thing. And I sit down and it doesn't move. And we had a good joke over it. Of course, what you did not see on camera was that when he sit down, one of them break off and the handle gone right away. But even that is an example. Things. Buy. And we wonder why we're depressed, right? We're hustling and bustling, 10 jobs, trying to make money to buy things, to impress people we don't care about. And in fact, it's so depressing on our soul. I'm going to tell y'all something. I'm old as the hills. I'm old as the hills. And trust me when I tell you, as a person with more years behind me, there is nothing in your life that is going to satisfy you like connection with people you love. There is no accolade. There is no working achievement. There is no viral post that will give you the satisfaction and enduring contentment that comes with good, clean, fun, and connection with people you love. I hate to sound trite and I hate to sound like old-fashioned. It's just true. Why do you think so many young men going back to the Stoics? That's ancient Romans, you know. That's ancient Roman teaching. How ironic is that? In the time of modern, online, digital technology, we got to go back. Because we're so lost, we're so forgotten. And the Stoics would tell you all kind of lessons to help with living in the now, to help with this idea of gratitude and staying firm and grounded and not being bewitched or, what's it called, when someone seduced by ideas of superficial stuff. Now, from a woman's perspective, from the time a little girl is before 10, I know because my niece is not much more than that. They're very concerned with how they look. You know, I have to be honest now as a big woman. Why is this podcast taking so long to start? I don't want to be on camera anymore. I don't want you to look at me aging because you're obsessed with how I look. Even though I've got this wonderful voice, and you should be thinking about how I sound, and this great brain, and you should be thinking about what I'm saying. But we're deceived by the eye. As a mixed race person, my mother's white, blonde, Australian. We were a mixed race family at a time when Barbados did not have many mixed race families. And so when I was growing up, I remember 2 or 3 things happening where I'd go home and complain to Mummy about how people were treating me or observing me when they saw her. And she's a very compassionate woman, and she was a teacher, thoughtful, deep woman. And she told me, "Oh, Ali, this is all these years ago, people are very moved by their eye. Even though you have all of these senses, 5, maybe 6, that comes with age. This one, they're obsessed with it. People believe their eyes when we know for sure. What is it? Don't judge a book by its cover. Your eye is deceptive. Because I kept saying to her, why are they so surprised that you're my mother? I guess I felt uncomfortable with that. And of course, I look nothing like a white blonde woman. So in retrospect, of course they would think that, but we are obsessed with how things look. And we have to remember there are more senses. Young women are forced to think about how they're looking. So they're obsessed with how they look and they don't want to do anything without edges or without makeup and without the right outfit and the grocery. That's just becoming so old before you're young. You know, we're trying to develop ourselves here. You want to know why you're depressed and anxious and also unimpressed? Because we back to that point. Impress me, right? You think you got to look like Rihanna every day, right? Who's got a team of people to dress her and make her up and do her hair and do her nails. Guys, we got to do something. You see, Australia, my other home nation, has just instituted from December 10th, 2025, a ban on social media apps for 16 and under. Under 16s can't see it. Well, I don't know how they're going to police it, but they'll find a way. Big Brother is big there. When I haven't been to Australia, yeah, you feel government. The government is in charge. So they've decided this far and no further. I know New Zealand's not going to be far off. England won't be far off. Lots of discussions across the world. Governments forced into action because it's been so detrimental. And I just want us to discuss how and why that is and try and break it down in some kind of coherent form. The reason I've been reticent to discuss it is because anytime you talked about anything the way it used to be, people would say, you're old-fashioned. Because, you know, mine all starts with language. Another victim of the online and screen life, right? The breakdown of language, to me, is going to be the single most dangerous thing that comes off of our screen addiction and internet addiction and social media addiction. Because language not only is how we communicate, it's how we interpret the world. It's how we understand the world, the words we use, and how we understand the words coming back at us. Right? I'm a humanities student. You know, I speak several languages, so I'm kind of biased. But you can look up all scientific studies about what language does for human development and development of the frontal cortex, right, of the brain. I remember my friend Maxine Williams had told me this stat. It's a Barbadian stat, in fact. And it was something extraordinary. I don't want to lie. It was more than 90%. I want to say 99%. Come for me if I'm wrong. I believe it was 99% of the men in our prison, DODs, have a reading age, under 6. So there is no denying the link between not developing that part of the brain early and emotional dysfunction and not being able to manage your emotions, not being able to communicate, and very often for people who don't have great support systems around them, a life of crime. Direct connections, right? You see, you just watch the men, watch ZR men. For me, ZR men are the perfect example. They are feral, and I use the word unreservedly, run and look it up, meaning wild, meaning no care for the fact that they're part of a collective, right? That they're part of something greater, all about them. I'm going to stop here. I'm going to spit here. I'm going to pee here. I'm going to talk with this man here and block up the road for 10 minutes. And if you complain, I vex. And I'm not a little vex. I've gone from 0 to full 100. My instinct, of course, is to be very frustrated by that. But we have to see why these young men have become like that. I've been so naive in my life as a good middle-class girl who didn't get to go on public transportation or van when I was younger. Someone was telling me the other day, a young lady who does my nails, and she's only in her early 20s now, so this is still ongoing. She would tell me how many times she would get on a van in the morning in her school uniform, and the driver would be smoking weed and say, "Smoke bother you? Smoke bothering you?" I gotta tell y'all, I was gobsmacked, right? This young student going to school trying to concentrate, music punging, can't hear yourself think, and the lyrics of the music abusive, reprehensible, nothing that should be playing for children or old people, only for ZR drivers. So she got weed smoke, she got all that music, she got the fear of her life, because we know it's dangerous. We had that terrible 27 student turnover when the guy was off route. A few things have happened already. Guys, that is not the way a civilized society should be operating. That is not due care and attention to our young people. We got to do something about it. We definitely we just can't let it go on like that. I was talking today, what are the solutions? How do you police it? And you put cameras on there, and then what? We kind of caught in that situation. But my point is, those are the ramifications of the breakdown of language and connection and humanity and all these things, right? That's where we reach. People don't give a... I'm not a person who curses. I'm very much in my soft and feminine era, and I don't believe in cursing unless it's enhancing a story. But I want y'all to know the level to which I feel it, because it's a serious thing. All of this here, right? So this has been an era of digital world, screen time, social media, and all that entails. The reason I'm obsessed with it is because, of course, I lived many years, 15, 16 years before the internet. So I know the difference. Me, lived experience. I don't need the history books to tell me how it was. I lived it. So I can tell you from my own experience, wow, hugely different. All of this playing out now in a time when the West is burning. America. What does America have to do with us? Everything! America used to be the center of the Western world, right? I gotta say used to be, because that's clearly not the case anymore. But particularly important to Caribbean people. They would say when America sneeze, Caribbean catch cold, right? We're geographically so close, and historically, obviously, the geographical, political place of the Caribbean so important as a space between South America and North America, etc. And we live in America now. America, KKK, 3 Ks in there with this President Trump. I think that we are unwell, right? Our mental health has declined, and we are less capable in terms of dealing with hardship than the generations before us, right? A bit of coddling, maybe, a bit of too much wokeness, right? I believe in wokeness, but, we've gone a bit too far east as west, and therefore we're not really preparing people to dig in and steely up their reserve. We haven't given them the resources to do that. So imagine all of that, and now being gaslit by a President Trump regime. It can only be gaslit because right in front of our eyes, the man is talking, is saying, look, we don't need immigrants. You know the immigrants we need? We need good immigrants. He literally said that. Like white South Africans. But I don't even know how to break this down. I don't even know how to discuss it. Believe your eyes. What you're seeing in front of your eyes is what is true. That we now have a regime not far away from us, a short flight, that is racist, dim-witted, and simple, stupid, foolish, like without knowledge. It's basically reality TV people in all of the positions of power. Like growing up, when I was growing up, right? And when I was a little girl, it would have been Reagan. Even Reagan at that time, he was an actor. So I think he was perceived then as a not serious politician. How much knowledge does he really have? Right? And we look back at Reagan now, the man look like a don. Man look full of knowledge. Because here we have a president he's got no language, no understanding understands very little except money and abuse and all those things. But then all the people that Pete Hegseth, did anybody watch that Pete Hegseth? Is his name Hegseth? I know. Anyway, you know what I mean. Where he flying all the army generals from around the world to give them a speech. Honestly, I don't really recommend it too often, right? But that is worth watching. The man, in a time when America was under water, right? He gives a government shutdown, people struggling to live, to get food. Like, it was a real difficult moment. And they spend money bringing all the American highest generals from around the world, right? To have it in this auditorium. And the speech given by Pete, the guy Pete, is worth watching in terms of level of dunce. And all these things are happening in, Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary for the United States president, right? Just plain lies every day. Just plain lies. From the moment he had that first press secretary in the first administration, whose name I don't remember, which is incredible because I thought I'd never forget her. And she introduced the term alternative facts. Y'all remember that? Alternative facts. Since then, the whole world has been living in this sort of period of gaslighting. Well, they're kind of people in official places, so some must be true, but I'm seeing something different and I know something different. And that cognitive dissonance makes people sick, makes people depressed and in a state of dis-ease and anxiety. So we have all these things happening at once. We're in an era where we've got no power of concentration. We're so distracted and depressed. And yet, maybe our ancestors would look down from wherever they are and say, but you can have everything. You literally have everything. We barely had a radio. Huh? We only had electricity for parts of the day. And with all that we've been given, we've eaten ourselves alive. We want to know how life has changed as a result of these things. Come on, Alex, it's the modern world. Get with it. We live on social media, and this is our lifestyle now. And what's the problem? Well, as a person who's lived through life before, life during, life after, I'd like to use Carnival culture as an example. I've been going to Trinidad Carnival since I was a teenager. And the first year I ever went was one of the greatest experiences of my life, even till now. It was a transcendental experience to observe how all encompassing this culture was, to feel the fellowship on the road, the juve, the pan, and just really be enveloped by this sense of curiosity and wonder, and how my spirit soared, and how my Caribbean identity. I was like, honestly, I will never forget how that felt. There's a particular moment too, and y'all will know. It was the year of Jahaji Bai, Brotherhood on the Boat. And that will show you again how it's changed. It was a big hit, but it was a calypso tune, social commentary tune, essentially, was a hit on the road. So that's a big change anyway. So that's another thing, right? Intelligence. We're dumbing everything down. It's like jump, rump, rumper in the back, back. That's it. No. Whereas this was about the fact that no more Mother Africa, no more Mother India, just Mother Trini. It was called Brotherhood on the Boat, about the Indo-African relationship in Trinidad, of course, which is still so ongoing, but rich, something thoughtful and thought-provoking. Anyway, long story short, I remember it's my first carnival and we were on the road. And I think it was Carnival Monday because we weren't full costume yet. And those days it went down the Foreshore Highway in Port of Spain, which is big, right? Huge, so much space. Right, so we turn off the road or whatever and get onto the highway so the road open up. So I got room and the DJ starts that song. The sun was setting on the water and I looked out and I could see the sun setting. The tune starts, bam 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 bam, and I turn and I see my friend Larry coming towards me with 2 rum and cokes. Tell you how long ago it was, I was still drinking rum and cokes. And I'll tell you that the epiphany I had of like happiness and fullness in my heart was unbelievable, right? And it was multi-layered into the music, into the culture, into the fellowship, into the nature, into the moment of being outside, expressing myself as a Caribbean person through this medium that is so uniquely ours. Over the years, I fell out of love with Carnival, mostly because of the music mafia. The music was not being rotated in a way that was good for the reveler. The music was very, 4 or 5 songs over and over again, and I fell out of love with it. When I went back and dipped my foot in one year or this year, I went back and looked, I was shocked by the changes. Makeup truck, Monday wear, all these things. Again, buy things, the commercialization. But the biggest change, and I think as a result of social media and the way that our society functions now, was how much it was about how you looked. The amount of time, effort, and money spent on the image of you, the physical image, boots, on a 2-day jump, and all these things. So here we were. These women looked amazing, don't get me wrong. People, my gosh, stunning bodies and makeup and pageantry, and there's, I guess, something to that. But what I noticed immediately, because I had played before and then I played again, was that it was very difficult to conjure the same vibe. Because for the original vibe, you need to be inside of yourself. And for the vibe afterwards, you need to be outside of yourself. Tough way to live and a lot to lose as a result. Somebody always looking better than you. But how are you enjoying yourself? And I feel like that's a real loss when I see people at Carnival and crop over, because, there were the years the Trinis started coming to Kadooman and they kind of changed our culture. We also got a bit more formal, right? No more t-shirt, bam for you, Spice and Company vibes. It's now full thing, right? Of course, not comparable to Trinidad's regalia. But I'm telling you, it's a huge change and it's for the worse. It's for the superficial. It's for the more depressed. And it's for the more, ultimately, depression down the road. Even if you're young and fit and beautiful and stunning now and enjoying being looked at, which is an enjoyable feeling, you miss out on being. And I make the point over and over again, we are humans being. And the more we forget how to be, is the less human we are. I'm going to finish up with this last story. I did a lot of traveling in October across the UK, London, Dublin, Scotland, etc. So I was in Terminal 5 at Heathrow many times. I'm looking at you, Heathrow Terminal 5. So I walked in, whatever, and you go to check in. And there's just no humans, all automated. But I want to find a human. I want to speak to someone. Not as much. Of course, I could check in on, but I actually want to see a human. I'm a Gemini dragon. I love people. That's why I loved my radio show so much, right? To talk with the people every day. So I find a BA kiosk, and I'm like, "Hi there. I would like to go to a person." And he goes, "What's the problem?" I said, "The problem is I love people. That's the problem." And he opened, those things, you have to pull it across. He opened it and said, "In you go." So I go to the place where you go if there's a problem. So the one human, anyway, very nice young man, cute, Indo-Englishman. I was like, "Hello, sailor." This was a good decision. He checked me in, wished me well on my thing. I said, "Thanks so much." That raised my spirits a bit. And we go through, and then I thought, all right, I'm going to have breakfast. So I pull up on the first restaurant, which was a Jamie Oliver. I was like, "Oh, this is going to be the bomb." And outside of the Jamie Oliver was this Italian-looking concierge guy, another cutie. I was like, "Oh, this is the spot for me. Hello, hi." He goes, "Hi, welcome." And yeah. And just go through and choose a table. I said, "You have a menu?" Or he goes, "Oh, no. It's you'll scan on your phone." I thought, all right, fair enough. So I get in there, and I sat down and realized, no waiter or waitress is going to come and talk to me. Everything is via my phone. I look at the menu, I make the order, I pay. All they do is drop in and drop off. And I was like, no, I don't want that. I want someone. I want some interaction. So I got up and left. And I explained to him when I was leaving, the Italian guy, "Sorry, no good." He goes, "I know, but what choice do we have? It's Heathrow's decision. We also want it, but Heathrow is making everything go more this way." I said, "Okay, bye-bye." And I go downstairs and I find the Wetherspoons, the pub. I said, "Aha, this is my spot now. It's going to be simple." And same thing, same exact thing. So by this time now, I'm feeling flustered. So I sit down and I go through all the pain of trying to order whatever. And eventually now, for some reason, when I tried to pay, my bank needed to send a text to my phone, but I'm in England, so I'm not going to get that text. Frustration peak 100. So then I asked what the hell I do now, and they said, "Oh, you can go to that bar there and be served." So I go to the bar, and there's a Gen Z, Gen Alpha friend behind the bar, and I was like, "This sucks. This absolutely sucks." And she was very empathetic. I was like, "What happened?" And I was telling her all the reasons why I thought this was ridiculous. And I said, "Mate, you've got to have options." I said, "I'm middle-aged, but what about old people? They're going to be completely locked out of this place." Anyway, she goes, "Oh, I much prefer doing everything digitally." And I said, "Yes, because that's how you've come up. I guess, you don't value the human-to-human connection as much. That's fair enough." Anyway, had a very unsatisfactory breakfast. And I went to my gate. As I was going to my gate, I was mulling all of these things and thinking, wow, I know we have to prepare for digital life. But there's a right now life where there's a whole slew of a couple generations above me who are just aged out of living. So when I sit down now in front of my gate, I noticed this little white woman sitting beside me, and she reminded me of my mother. And when I look good, she's silently weeping. And I lean in and I say, "Hi, what's wrong? Can I help you?" And she said, "I just wasn't able to do anything in this airport. And I just got a bottle of water in the end. And I can't even hear what's being said, and no one around to help me." And I thought to myself, you see. I told her, well, her husband had died a few years earlier, and she's on her own now in her late 70s. And I said, well, he sent me, and we're going the same place, and I'm going to take you all the way through. You don't worry. And she and I had a long chat on how the airport was completely inaccessible to her. Just discomforting for me, but completely inaccessible to the vulnerable. I think we've lost our way. I think there's a middle ground. I think instead of using technology as a tool, We've abused it like a drug, and to our detriment. All right, guys. I think we can leave it here for now. I am interested very much in the world, metaphysics, all of it, and discussing how it's changing, how it impacts us, what's happening, social trends, everything. Nothing is off the table. And I'm so glad that we've at least started. So look for more of this content coming your way. Share it. Tell a friend. What do you think? Comment below. You know, let's have a discussion. That's really what I miss. Maybe we should start doing lives. Ask Alex. How's it sound? Let's get involved. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Love you guys. And let's find some solutions.